This is a true story that happened to me that I really think if my boyfriend wasn't standing right by me, I would have thought I was hallucinating. So since the pandemic, like I've put on a little bit of weight and I'm not necessarily upset about that, but because I'm like 24 and like I'm with the love of my life, I always am thinking about the future. And so I decided that I would be a little bit more active. I mean, this entire pandemic, I had been working at home and just like not genuinely moving as much, and to kind of like work up to working out. This is important. So remember that. Me and my boyfriend, we've been playing Pokemon Go. And basically, we walk to the gyms near our house and we like take the gyms together every single day. It's a little bit of like a mile and a half, and that's not a lot, but we're doing it every day to just kind of like build up our stamina that has been crushed. And I want to say, like, let me show a picture of me and my boyfriend. This is my boyfriend's body. And that is my body. He's always been skinnier than like me. And I don't know if this is why this happened, but we're walking like around this like park and it's right by the street and there's a stoplight. So basically we walk up to this point and then there's this car that stops at this stoplight. They roll down the window in the middle of fucking broad daylight. This 29-year-old woman who I couldn't make eye contact with because the glare of her car was shielding her face, but my boyfriend was in a way of being able to fucking see her. And she just starts saying, "You look fat as hell." Like, I fucking wish I was lying, bro. Like, she just goes, "You look big as hell, fat as hell. You need to go on a diet." It's too late. And get this shit. My boyfriend said she was a fat girl too. She was fat too. We are fat. I want to say, oh, I thought of the coolest comeback. I hopped over that fence, I jumped in her car, and I taught her a lesson, but that's not what happened. I just stood there and I took it like a bitch. I didn't know what to say. Because genuinely, like, I've been in therapy for like 6 months, and I think I've healed the overwhelming hatred in my heart. And I just wasn't mad, but just shocked. Because, like, I call myself fat. I know I'm fat, and I'm like doing the thing that you want me to do, which is working out.
This is a story of the teacher's pet. So let's just call him Marco because I don't want to call out his real name. So it all started with the first day of school. Marco was picked first for everything, literally everything. When a student would ask to use the restroom, the teacher would say no, and like 5 minutes later, Marco would ask and she would say yes. Even though students brought it up to her multiple times, she still continued to favorite Marco. And on Marco's desk, he even wrote the teacher's pet on his name tag. So the next week came by, and our teacher brought in a whole pizza box. The whole class was so excited until the teacher announced that it was for only her and Marco. Both of them literally finished the whole entire box. The whole class always wondered why she would always favorite Marco. So it was the next day, and it all made sense because the teacher announced. This is part 2 of the teacher's pet. So that Friday morning, the teacher announced that she was Marco's babysitter. So right after she made that little announcement, a student went up to her and said, "Why can't you just treat us all equally?" And she whispered in the student's ear and said so she can get paid extra from Marco's mom. We all ignored it until it kept getting way too out of hand. Marco was bragging about him being the teacher's pet, and another student was arguing with him. Marco got so mad that he had a pencil and stabbed it in the student's eye. Everyone was so shocked except Marco and the teacher. The student was literally crying. Then one of the other students had enough of this, and they just grabbed the teacher's phone and called the principal's number. Marco and the teacher both got called into the principal's office, and you will not believe what happened next. This is part 3 of the teacher's pet. So right after Marco and the teacher got called in the principal's office, the principal had asked what happened. While the teacher was explaining what happened, she blamed it all on another student. She said that Marco had done none of it, even though he did stab the student in the eye with the pencil. The principal believed it until right when the teacher and Marco were about to leave the principal's office, the principal saw a pencil with a little bit of blood on it at the tip. Then he called Marco there and asked what was that. Then Marco shoved the pencil down his pocket and asked what was what. The principal had enough of it and he just called his parents and he got suspended for the rest of the day. Of course, that wasn't even enough. He literally stabbed a kid in the eye. Meanwhile, the teacher went back to her classroom and you won't believe what she saw. This is part 4 of the teacher's pet. So once the teacher entered in the classroom, she saw that nobody was there and every single student left the classroom. The administrations were literally walking around the classrooms near hers. The teacher was literally yelling at everybody who ran out of the classroom really loud. Her voice literally changed, like if it was a different person. But once the administrations walked past her classroom, she immediately changed. She was a whole different person once the administrations walked past her door. All of a sudden, she was Miss Nice Girl. Anyway, the next day came by, and of course, Marco was there. But I couldn't even blame Marco for it because it was the teacher's fault. But anyway, it was the next day, and we all had certain stuff to do in our class. Like, say if some girl named Natalie would pass out paper. Well, all of a sudden, the teacher told Marco to do everything. Like, she erased all of the jobs we had to do. But before Marco could even do anything, you won't believe who walked in. This is part 5 of the teacher's pet. So before Marco could even do anything, his mom walked in. She called the teacher, and both the teacher and Marco's mom stepped out of the classroom. When the teacher came back in, she did not have a smile on her face. She called Marco to her desk, and later that day, she had an announcement for the class. Everybody was so confused. Marco then grabbed his backpack and went in the front with the teacher. They said Marco got kicked out of the school. When Marco was leaving the school, we asked him what actually happened. He told us that he got kicked out of the school and the teacher got fired from babysitting him. We all thought Marco would be crying or something. Or maybe even be sad. But no, Marco had a big smile on his face like he had something to do with it. The rest of the day, the teacher was not happy. Marco then left the school, finally. But then, a couple days later, a new student came in. Or if it is a new student. This is part 6 of the teacher's pet. So a couple days later after Marco left, a new student came in. His name was kind of strange. His name was Emiliano Gonzi. As soon as he walked into the classroom, he acted like he had already been in the class before. The teacher always kept pencils in some type of drawer. It was a specific drawer, the middle one. He didn't have no questions, he just straight up went to the drawer. And he got a lot of pencils. And it was really strange because he spent quite some time looking for a specific pencil. And it was Marco's old pencil that had an M on it. And it was also weird because his name didn't even start with an M. And the teacher had already gave him a pencil that had his name on it. I knew something was up, so I decided to follow him after school. Also, keep in mind, he would always come in all black, covered his whole face. While I was following him, it was kind of weird. He was going into Marco's apartments. All of a sudden, we got a new teacher.
Am I the asshole for not sleeping in the same bed as my pregnant girlfriend? All right, hear me out. My girlfriend, 23 female, has terrible IBS. For those of you who don't know what IBS is, it is irritable bowel syndrome. It is a chronic gastrointestinal disorder that affects the large intestine, causing diarrhea, abdominal pain, cramps, bloating, and fartulence. So, back to the story. She frequently lays on the floor with a hot water bottle in excruciating pain ever since she got pregnant. She's now 7 months pregnant. It has only gotten worse and worse. So when nighttime comes around, her stomach starts making the most bizarre noises. It sounds like small, rapid gunshots. Laughing, crying, you name it, her stomach sounds like it. It's not overwhelmingly loud, but it's definitely noticeable. She does have medication for it, but it doesn't really work. The only thing that works is sleeping on her back, which she refuses to do. So last night it was louder than usual and she claims it hurt so badly, but she still managed to go to sleep. I, on the other hand, couldn't have fallen asleep if you had paid me $1 million. I woke her up and asked her if she would please go sleep on the couch, which she refused to do. She told me to go, but I said since she's smaller, she should go. She started crying a little bit, but she grabbed her blanket and she left. The good news, I slept very peacefully, but apparently she didn't, because this morning she said that, quote unquote, I always treat her like shit, and she's really snappy and short with me. She told her best friend, her dad, sister, and her cousin what I did, but I really didn't think that it was that big of a deal. So, am I the asshole for not sleeping in the same bed as my pregnant girlfriend and making her move to the couch at 7 months pregnant? Am I the asshole for dancing half naked in my living room, leading to my boyfriend and his family seeing me? This is so embarrassing, but I cannot take it anymore. I have to know if I'm in the wrong here. I need to apologize if so. I, 21 female, was told by my boyfriend Nate, 26 male, that I'd get the house to myself for the weekend. He said he had to go visit his parents to take care of a property-related issue. I was pretty excited to have the house to myself because I have been living with Nate since I was 19 and I missed living alone. Though Nate is amazing and in no way a trouble to live with. I want to make a note that Nate's family is also very conservative and he was brought up like that as well. I had this tradition of spending a lot of my weekends baking while in my lingerie. I don't know, it makes me feel pretty. Yes, I know it's stupid, but it just makes me stupid happy with music and dancing. Super embarrassing to admit, but I also do silly things like pretending I'm a Victoria's Secret model or a singer, and I sing along loudly. I mentioned this because this means the house is usually a mess. My dresses are all over and the music is super loud, which is obviously not okay. I hadn't done that in a long time because Nate hates loud music and he's not a fan of my cupcakes. So I decided to do it this weekend. So it's Sunday and I put on my What a Feeling by One Direction song, and it's super loud. I'm only wearing lingerie, the Victoria's Secret kind, so it's lacy AF, which I regret so much looking back. Ugh. My boyfriend used his key to open the door and I didn't hear him come in because, like I said, it's loud in the house and I'm also in the kitchen living room area. Apparently, he wanted to surprise me. Nate brought his mom, dad, and his sister's 2 kids. Only like 10-year-old boys, I think. They come in and there I am, frozen in a dance pose like an idiot. Am I the asshole for calling my sister cruel for putting her disabled son in a nursing home? My sister is a widow with 3 kids, 10, 12, and Adam, 15. My brother-in-law passed away in a car accident 3 years ago.